Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. It's great to be with you today. I'm Patty Bryan, and I'm the worship associate for today's service. If you're new to us, we hope you can make yourself known on the Facebook Live chat. Then we can say hello. We also hope that you'll email our administrator at office@uunaples.org so that we can include you in our regular news blasts. That way, we can let you know about all the wonderful things that are going on here at UUCGN. There really is a lot happening. Check out the email notices that are sent each week. In addition to news, they offer links to all sorts of learning and fellowship opportunities. And please go to our website at www.uunaples.org to learn more about UUCGN. And now, let's settle ourselves into this time of worship with this morning's prelude. The Dancing Light by Scott Taylor. Let this dancing light be our guide. Let it lure us into letting go of the worries, of the stiffness that sets in after all the striving, of the myth that productivity alone gives us purpose. This garden of life we've been given is a playground. The weeding can wait. Please share the chalice lighting response with the words you'll find on your screen. We light this chalice in the spirit of play. Let us trust the light to guide us in this hour and in the days to come, finding joy in our journey together. And now let's join together in singing our opening hymn, One of my absolute total favorites, Let It Be a Dance. You'll find the words on your screen.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind, let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, share the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
One of the gifts Unitarian Universalist congregations have historically offered to seminarians aspiring to become UU ministers is an opportunity to preach from a different pulpit to a different audience. When UUCGN served as a teaching congregation in the past, supporting ministerial candidates such as Janet Ani and Suzanne Fast, our interns would appreciate any chance they got to travel up this coast or across the state to preach at another UU congregation. The experience is important and potentially rich for both the student minister and the host congregation. Unfortunately, the pandemic has made it impossible to do this in person. So we do the best we can by offering our virtual pulpit to an aspiring UU minister. This morning, we welcome to our virtual pulpit Shae Dent. Shae is currently serving as the Ministerial Intern at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Miami, and her road there has been an interesting one. Shae grew up in Florida in the Baptist faith. Around the age of 18, she began to grow away from organized religion, but not away from a sense of the spiritual. She received her Bachelor of Science degree from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in 2011 and her Master of Public Administration degree from Barry University in 2018. She worked as a journalist in the field of public relations for several years until jobs became too scarce. Shae currently works in the area of public safety while also holding her intern position. Finding Unitarian Universalism has been a joy for Shae, and after completing divinity school, she hopes to serve both this faith and our country at the same time by joining the Air Force as a chaplain. Our hope here at UUCGN is that we can invite Shae to join us sometime down the road so she can share her ongoing journey with us. And here's Shae.
Good morning. I am Shae, the Ministerial Intern at UU Miami. Welcome to the service and thank you for joining us today. We will be discussing it never being too late to play. An anonymous quote says, "You can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation." So often we focus on who we used to be, what we used to do, and how things were once upon a time. But as we look to the future and focus on what is in our control, we are reminded that we still have time left and that it's never too late to play. Play is defined as engaging in activity for enjoyment and recreation rather than serious or practical purpose. But for today's service, we're going to make a change to that definition. We're going to say that play is engaging in activity for enjoyment and recreation in a serious and practical way. Because play needs to be an intentional part of your life. Today, we get serious about play.
Now let's sing together our centering hymn, "Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky." The words will be on your screen.
Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly. Over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time, life in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hide the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live.
Each week during our service, we set aside a time of community, a time to recognize that individually and together we have our ups and downs, a time to share with each other our individual joys or sorrows, and in doing so, build a bond of love and understanding. Not being together in person for this part of the service has been one of the hardest things about our forced separation. We may value the social aspect of congregational life, but these moments of sharing on Sunday bind us together, reminding us all of our humanity and of our compassion. The Caring Corner, now being sent out every Tuesday, is a way for each of us to share our news with the UUCGN community and to learn and respond to the joys and sorrows of others. If you have something that you would like to share in this way, please email our office administrator at office@uunaples.org. This morning, we remember those in our lives who are struggling or who are celebrating milestones. If you're thinking of someone right now, please take this time to light a candle or say a name or remember that person in some way. One person to keep in our thoughts is Harriet Lancaster. She had knee replacement surgery in June and now is receiving physical therapy. It's very hard work, but she's progressing well. At this point, she would prefer no phone calls, but she would love cards and notes being sent to her at her Maryland address. It is with great joy, mixed with lingering sorrow, that the Board of Trustees and the Facilities Committee announced the completion of our repaving project. and it really is stellar. The Joan Looney Memorial Drive was dedicated on June 20th by the members of the Looney family. The sign below the name reads, "This lane represents a pathway to a special place where all can gather in search of love, justice, peace, and harmony." We are very grateful for this gift from Glenn Looney in honor of his beloved wife, Joan, who passed away last October. Now, as we enter into our time of meditation this morning, it helps to acknowledge that our lives are always in flux, buffeted by things within and beyond our ability to change. So, sometimes it's better to just lean into the motion and find in ourselves new ways to live. The meditation is called "To Savor the World or Save It" by Richard Gilbert. And he opens with a little piece by E.B. White, who wrote Charlotte's Web. White wrote, "It's hard to know when to respond to the seductiveness of the world and when to respond to its challenge. If the world were merely seductive, that would be easy. If it were merely challenging, that would be no problem. But I arise in the morning torn between the desire to improve the world and the desire to enjoy the world. This makes it hard to plan the day." Richard Gilbert, "To Savor the World or Save It." I rise in the morning torn between the desire to save the world or to savor it, to serve life or to enjoy it, to savor the sweet taste of my own joy or share the bitter cup of my neighbor, to celebrate life with exuberant step or to struggle for the life of the heavy laden. What am I to do when the guilt at my bounty clouds the sky of my vision? When the glow which lights my every day illumines the hurting world around me? To savor the world or save it? God of justice, if such there be, take from me the burden of this question. Let me praise my plenitude without limit. Let me cast from my eyes all troubled folk. No, you will not let me be. You will not stop my ears to the cries of the hurt and hungry. You will not close my eyes to the sight of the afflicted. What is that you say? To save, one must serve. To savor, one must save. The one will not stand without the other. Forgive me in my preoccupation with myself, in my concern for my own life. I had forgotten. Forgive me, God of justice. Forgive me and make me whole. And now, let's share a few seconds of silence. Our next reading is from a wonderful place with a wonderful title, Ice Cream for Breakfast, by Leslie Levine. As we progress into adulthood, we sometimes leave too much behind. Our thirst for adventure begins to wane. Rather than exciting us, the thrill of the unknown makes us anxious. We forget to nurture our imagination. Even our capacity for uncontrollable laughter is somehow diminished by the rules that govern adulthood. Instead of giving ourselves permission to be joyful and to do the things that make us happy, we arbitrarily create rules that prevent us from enjoying as much as we can. Why is play so elusive for some grown-ups? Because we're so strongly attracted and attached to a profoundly goal-oriented, work ethic-driven society. Like other forms of non-work, play connotes wastefulness, a stoppage in the way of getting things done. Yet often what really needs to get done has more to do with our hearts and spirits and less to do with a deadline or a long-standing project. Play beckons to us, urging us to live in the present moment, a moment that becomes more luminous when we disallow interruptions like work and worry. Now is the time for us to express our gratitude for this community, its work, its vision, and all the ways it nourishes our lives. From its welcoming doors and sheltering walls to its good and generous people. From the sanctuary of its memorial garden to its outreach in the wider community. For all of these things, and for the ways it works its magic in your life, the morning's offering for the ongoing mission of this congregation will be gratefully received. Please consider mailing a contribution today. The address is right on the screen. Or you can go to www.uunaples.org, and there you'll find a donate button. And you can also find a lot more about this congregation. Now that we're all on the sunny side of the street, we can listen to the poem Joy by Terry Pohuki. I have been wondering what morning glories know. Is it envy that compels these vines to strangle other flowers arising in their path? Or perhaps self-preservation, to climb these walls, forsaking humbler beings, winding greedy stems around the trellis in their hungry pursuit of light. Still, every morning, basking in their spiral shadows, I want to believe it's something more. This fevered yearning to open purple flowers and yield bold-throated glorias to the sun, and in the blaze of afternoon, curl the petals softly into shyness. And every morning, I plead with the dew-moist buds to know their secret joy, to open and close without holding, to surrender all to light, to sing, I am completely yours, over and over again.
By understanding the old us, the future us, and the us we are working towards being, by playing a little game and talking about dreams and aspirations, we dive deeper in today's topic. Never too late to play. See, I was born in 89, and some people will see me today and tell me, oh, you're just a baby. Or they'll say things like, you just made the cut for the 80s, barely. But those little comments, well, they always warrant a straightening that I never dismiss the chance to give. And it goes like this. I am old enough to remember brick cell phones. Heck, even house phones and voicemail box. To have grown up with a cable box that allowed you to steal cable, and even with the box, most TV channels still went off at night. I have lived long enough to have done book reports without Google, where you had to go to this massive bookshelf in the house with tons of encyclopedias, and you have to pull one down by the alphabet it started with and flip through pages searching for what you were looking for. It was more like manual Google back then. And if that wasn't enough work, you had to pull out a big old typewriter and type up the report. The first ones didn't even have spell check. So you need to get a dictionary to sit on the desk too, just to reference all the words you were unsure of spelling. This was a lot of work. But this was my childhood. Back when Bell South owned everything. And then when we finally did get computers, they were really stupid. No one liked them very much. And they forced us to take a computer class in school. Microsoft Word had been created, and I was convinced that spelling tests should now be canceled forever since the computer was going to correct me for everything. Then there was AOL and Instant Messenger, and I thought MySpace was like a big deal. I grew up in a whole different world. And so many things have changed. Back then, I didn't know what being gay was. It wasn't something that was openly exposed to children. Even when there would be an openly homosexual adult male, people would call him sweet, but never gay. And it made us think that they were like more soft than tough, but not that they had a different sexual preference. I don't know if we would have even understood that back then because everything was still so very secret. There was no rap songs that talked about anything dealing with the same sex. And many families still would beat children trying to make sure they didn't turn out to be homosexual. Looking back on it, it's really sad. But back then it was normal. Today it's totally different. Being openly gay is a lot more accepted nowadays, and I think that's great. I get asked by young adults often how things were when I was growing up, and I tell them the same. I explained to them back then a girl who was an athlete would normally be called a tomboy, but nowadays terms like that are obsolete. And I can't never seem to get them to understand how different the world was without Nicki Minaj's and Cardi B's today. But it was. And I'm not saying we need to go back, although I miss certain aspects. As I take you down memory lane, just showing you how we can focus on who we used to be, what we used to do, and how things were once upon a time, and how sometimes that's not always most beneficial, especially when we're looking towards the future and we're trying to be better us. When we talk about the future, I think about myself, and in speaking on this section, I want you to think about yourself, your goals, your aspirations, your dreams, things that you can play with in your mind. As we look to the future and focus on what is in our control, we are reminded that we still have time left to make changes. Changes in the world and within ourselves for the better. When I make new plans for my life, I work backwards. I start with where I want to end up, and then I work backwards to today. It brings clarity to things I need to do now in order to get me to my end goal. Now, don't get me wrong. The older I get, the harder it gets to change, because a large part of me wants to remain the same. But that part that wants to change is just stronger. Sometimes it's a little less consistent, but stronger overall. Whether we realize it or not, we are all playing a game of life. And understanding who we used to be helps us to understand the changes we need to intentionally make for our future, so that we can play a little bit better. Oftentimes, from childhood to adulthood, people have asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. My answer is pretty much always the same. Well, I'm still figuring that out. I have worked tons of jobs since I was 14 years old, and already I have had 3 separate careers. Some people will perceive this as a person who does not know what they want or can't make up their mind, a person who's uncertain. But I'm far from that. I just know my worth. And no matter what job I do, it won't ever be a job that I sacrifice my happiness for. I'm just like that. I'm a person who can master something quickly and do it with ease, but at any point, if it doesn't work for me, it just don't work for me. And I won't just stick it out just to say I stuck it out. I will happily take the experience and the knowledge and move on to something better. And I've done that consistently throughout my life. My generation is different in that way. We're not going to get a good job and keep the good job. We're happy to take the risk at finding a great job. Now, I'm not promoting that you all leave your current situations in life and move on to better ones. Not that that's a bad idea. But my point is, no matter what stage you're at in life, you can always switch gears from present focus to future focus and look towards what's in your control to change. Like many messed up societal norms we have fed into, this one has left a stint on our brains when making career plans. Find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. I don't know about all of that. Many people have spent a lifetime looking for what they love to do and have not found it yet. The irony is, in my research, I couldn't even find the author of this quote. It is credited to several different people, but there's no specific reference to when or where it came from. Yet people still believe it. Word of mouth is still the most powerful marketing tool. And people make life decisions based on that quote, and no one knows where it came from. There is one thing I love to do, and there's always been one thing that I love to do, and that's spending time with my loved ones. Now, if my loved ones would pay me, then maybe I could see the truth in the quote. But since they don't, I just disagree. Even the greats like Michael Jordan or LeBron James, who I'm sure love basketball, that don't mean they happy to play over 100 games a year. Sometimes even making millions, even loving the game, it's still work. So I think we should focus less on finding what we love so very much and focus more on what we enjoy, or at least something that we don't mind doing that will provide us the income we need to go and do those things we love and give us our time back. So today, if you're watching this, I want you to make a plan and make changes, because there is still time left. Time that no amount of money can buy. Is it a hobby that you wanted to learn but never got around to? Or what about a language or a skill you want to master? A business you were meaning to get off the ground, or a dream that got deferred along the way? What about you just getting back to things you used to enjoy that made you feel fulfilled? Today, it's time to get to it. Yeah, maybe you can't do things like you used to. But guess what? None of us can. That doesn't mean we can't do anything. It's still not too late to be whoever you want it to be. And it sure ain't too late to play. In closing, I'd like to read The Rules of the Game by Reverend Scott Taylor. Kick the ball, dance in the rain, get lost on purpose. Play fetch with the dog, fly the kite, smell the flowers. Jump in the puddle, pull out the paints, throw the dice. Learn the two-step, let life take you by the hand. Lean back and let the wind mess up your hair. Laugh, live, and live.